How are organizations, networks, communities moving in this moment? So on one end of the spectrum, right, we've seen some have taken the position of compliance, right? Either they've been forced to do so if they're working for a federal agency, if they're working at a school district level, they have sometimes less control over whether they can have a particular strong power stance around this work. Some people preemptively got ahead and complied, even before we knew how things were settling out, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of necessity. And we want to make the point that we don't want to judge, anyone who's been in this category. We just want to acknowledge that a lot of people moved really fast, particularly when the executive orders came out in January and February. And I think one of the lessons of that is maybe we don't need to move as fast, right? In some areas, yes, but there are so many organizations that don't have federal funding, that have other ways of amassing power and cultivating power. So let's pause, right? Silence. Now, silence was and is a reasonable response, and maybe even strategic. So some organizations, some leaders have said, we're just going to stay below the radar and we're going to continue to do our work and be brave, but we're not going to be out publicly about it. And so that can be strategic, right? Sometimes the silence was, we don't know what we want to do right now. And sometimes it was fear, but that has been one response that we've seen. The third is sort of what we would call pragmatic support. And this is based on the contextual situation, the unique conditions and the time. People are making decisions in the moment. So they may change their response depending on what they are dealing with on a programmatic level, on an organizational level, or community level. And then organized power. On the power stance, we are seeing so many more examples happening, folks. You know it, you're seeing it, you feel it. It is so exciting. Harvard University saying, absolutely not. You can try to take away our tax exempt status. You can try to take away our funding. We are going to fight back. We have elected officials fighting back and national protests, right? And local protests of different scale. And that has been powerful. A national solidarity campaign by philanthropy recently, 500 plus foundations saying, you cannot tell us what to do with our resources. We stand in solidarity. And there are some interesting foundations that are a part of that, not necessarily social justice foundations, but those that want independence. And as some of you know, Black Lives Matter, they saw they were coming for Harriet Tubman and trying to remove Harriet, from various images and from monuments. They fought back, we fought back. They said, we're not going to do that. So see some learnings here. When we fight, we win. Not always, but the key is we have to be willing to have those very, very deeply courageous fights.